Hey, this is Pops. Yeah, Black Mirror. Season 6 went well. I gave my reviews on those and had a lot of talk early on about you should go back and watch the very beginning or watch this particular one. So here we go. Episode 1, where it all started, the national anthem. Pops, it's hard to watch. Pops, it's rough. It's blah, blah, blah. I'm going to give you my take on it and my first impression with Black Mirror at this point and kind of give you my thoughts on that. So, the biggest thing I can tell you is I did not know they were all. I knew they were all standalone episodes. I did not know they were all so long, and there were not as many per season. I didn't know also that basically Charlie Brooker wrote all of them. I didn't know that as well. I thought it was more like an anthology series where different people wasn't just the director and the cast; it was also other creative elements as well. The premise of this is the one that everybody talks about. Rory Kinnear plays the British Prime Minister. One of the royals, the princess, has been abducted, and there's a kidnapping and a ransom that basically is basically just a contrived mechanism to humiliate the prime minister and the government writ large. And the premise is, if you don't have this video, this live stream of you fornicating with this pig, what billions of people, millions, if not a billion people watch, then we're going to take care of the princess. So what was my first impression? My first impression was, what? Like, huh? And I didn't quite understand what the what the point of the story is. Like, I didn't quite get just the idea of just mocking the government and trying to just sort of like kind of having that sort of like anti-government philosophy integrated within sort of like an anarchist um contrived element, I guess. Um, Let me just say this: the cast, the performance, the execution is a craft. All of this is fine. Black Mirror is top notch, top tier, top shelf. Right? This is great stuff. Right? What is what's odd for me is that the story is not as interesting or complicated as I thought it would be. The prime minister. I thought all of this was very, I don't know. I want to say believable, but I say believable in the grand scheme of how it's presented, right? And it's just this strange dichotomy that they try to force us down of what would you do, right? And I got to be honest, a large portion of this episode it actually works pretty well. Like all of this kind of this back and forth with the politics, the idea that they will immediately try to figure out ways to manage the social media leaks and the kidnapping videos that are now made public. By the way, all this graphics and stuff looks amazing. By the way, that's really really fantastic. Um, and how it basically kind of leaks out into um, the social circles and asking people and polling people. And I thought all of this was done exceedingly well, just beautifully executed, and it kind of takes us through this first phase. And I will say this part is the one part where I'm going to come back to of the issue with the wife. It's just like it's touched on, and then we decide to like let it go. So they end up having this sequence where they think they've got somebody, and it ends up not that's not the case. And they all talk about how they're going to have to go through with it, and then they have this sort of like we're going to have this second raid, if you will. It turns out that one of the journalists gets there and gets caught up in everything, and then we end up in this final sequence of what are you going to do, and he's going to have to go through with it. What is strange in this very final sequence? It's as though they allowed the country to stop. Like no one. The only way the story works is nobody's out looking for the princess. Like there's no police, no military, there's no special ops. We had our one raid or our one or two failed events and efforts, and then after that, nothing else was done. Like that's the only way any of this sort of kind of holds up and works and allows me to kind of like stay within the confines of the story. Um, and again, I will say everything to this point, everything, especially because it was made in 2011. This is really, really, really good. Except that there's this binary option that they're forcing me to try to be in. It's like trying to say, "Oh, would you do this? Or if you don't, this happens." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Why did all the police stop looking? Why was there not, a reward put out? Why was there not all of these different things that would have, in theory, been a lot easier on the government to try to unearth where the princess is and catch the kidnapper, and ultimately the twist, because he goes through with it, right? And all the gross and the cringiness that you see in everyone's reaction is what you're supposed to be put off by, right? And that because of, and it will also say that, um, they only say, this is really strange to me. They spin their wheels on, you're doing it because of the political power. Like there's this argument about doing it or not doing it with the pig versus your political future. And then of course they at the end, that's what they talk about, how a year later he's rising in the polls. Like the politics is what matters. They will do anything to keep their power in their politics. Instead of really trying to argue, I'll do anything so this innocent person doesn't die. If that's what I have to do to humiliate myself, then that's fine. The other part, again, there's a couple of those moments with the wife, but she's not with him, and there's no other conversations with the wife. What do you want me to do? What do we do? How do we come out of this the other side? Do I just we move on and that's it? Look at everybody just staring so strange. Like, and this was also, I think, a more disturbing element to the episode is I found I should say that maybe this is not what my take home is supposed to be, but one of my take homes is look at how many people would watch this. If this was, I don't know, I don't think I have any interest in playing this out in our real world where we have a leader forced into this situation. It's going to be televised, and I'm supposed to watch that. I'm not watching that. I'm sure I will hear within 5 minutes whether or not it actually happened or not and cringe accordingly. And then this poor princess was released. It was all just a sham, right? Dude takes care of himself and released the princess. And if there had been any police force out, if there'd been anyone out there, they would have known that. He wouldn't have had to go through with it. So the commentary that they're trying to put on us, I couldn't fully immerse myself in. I just couldn't totally get it. Um, I love some of the elements of it all. Um, Especially that first portion of it, the media frenzy and some of that kind of stuff. Um, but I'm not quite sure I totally bought into it all as much as I probably should have. And it kind of made me feel like this is the pilot episode that got everybody hooked. But I don't know. Were these not released? Were they released? I think this was the kind of thing, right? This dropped early on like British television, and then it went out live, right? It was to make sure I'm double checking that, make sure I got this right. Because the air date was in December 4th, 2011, and then the next episode is a week later. Okay, so they were not dropped at once. So it's a week later. So I will say this: I can see why the show, because of shock factor, would have taken off and got a lot of publicity. But I'm not sure the show did it for me. Of like, oh my gosh, this was so good. It's like, well, did you see the show? Like, it's so freaking messed up. Um, And I will say a show that was really rooted, its reputation is rooted a lot more in tech. This didn't seem as rooted in tech as I expected it to be either, by the way. Or I expected there to be a twist and never came. But that's partially because I was exposed to season 6. I kind of knew about the techie elements to the show. So I don't know. Am I off base with where you guys are on this? I mean, I'm so late to the game. We're talking about 10 years. I'm over 10 years late. Um, it's I mean, look, again, I praise the acting, praise the execution of the delivery of the show, the graphics and all the recreation and the presentation of the media frenzy and the CNN show, the fake, all that stuff is freaking amazing. Um, yeah, anyway, that's my take on it. So tell me what you guys think. I'm going to do episode 2 at some. I'm kind of past that point, excuse me, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for watching. My pops.